Hello, Star Wars fans. You know, there are just 52 days until Christmas 2022. We're going to have a fun show today. Normally, we would be talking about Andor, but this past week marked a big anniversary within Star Wars. It was the Disney Lucasfilm era began 10 years ago this past week, and I put out a little survey. There's a link to it in the description of this video if you haven't participated in it yet. But I sent out a little survey just to get where people stand on it. And there's two metrics I'm taking in that. One is a ranking, like my favorite to least favorite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like that. And the other is a rating. So I loved it to I hated it, or I haven't even watched this thing. So those are in the survey. And I've compiled all the results, and we're going to take a look at them today, and we're going to discuss it with some of our friends. And we've got Jason Ward. Hello, my friend.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going really, really well. And Meg, hello.
Santa is real, goddammit.
Yeah, he's real. F you.
I believe in
Santa.
Santa. I do.
It's as Nikki put. Meg redid my intro. It's you can find it on Discord. It's quite good. If you haven't seen it, very funny, very funny. And so we got a couple other guests with us today. As it comes on, it says Jason is super loud. Nikki said,
I'll make it ASMR for you, Nikki. Nikki, is that better?
Nikki,
no,
just
Nikki.
mute him. It's fine.
No, Nikki, no.
And
Kathy says hi. Kathy Kennedy says hi. Wants to fight you.
Well, funny thing is Nikki was DMing me this morning. She's having a little confusion on the rating ranking thing, and and I didn't know. I learned something new about Nikki in our DMs. I'll leave it there because she told me do not tell people what I said. Right?
Yeah, she has a Star Wars Rebels backpack.
One of the sequels.
Her very favorite movie of all time. You know, I was I was really shocked that
I see what happened. She rated it too high instead of too low, so it looks like she liked The Rise of Skywalker.
That's her very favorite movie of all time. I was like, I don't like to out people. You know, if they're in the closet, let you come to it on your own terms. But Nikki, in this case, she's a closet shill. She just, outed herself to me in DMs. So it's very funny. And I got my friend Imagic Maker. Imagic Maker's been doing the show with me for a couple of years. Good to see you, my friend.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
And you don't see me, actually. You just see my eye.
I do see your eye, but you published a video first time in the longest time, and then it got copyright struck, and then you fixed it and put it back out again.
Oh, right? No, I didn't fix it. I just put a bunch of stuff over the top of it so it didn't recognize it, and went, copyright sucks.
There you go. I haven't got a chance to watch it yet.
What's crazy about that whole thing, is that I have the exact same clip a little bit earlier, except for like 3 seconds. And that didn't get like copyright writing on that at all. It was just this other section. I'm like, what the heck? That makes absolutely no sense.
And Ghostwriter asked, do I have receipts for that slander? I do, Ghostwriter. I screenshotted it before Nikki could delete it.
Santa deletes when we come out to him.
I do have it. Nikki, I saved it. So, no, it's good fun. And your video today, Imagic Maker, was the prequels according to the original trilogy. Right?
That's right. So if you just took the information from the original trilogy, what would the prequels be like? And it's looking at that. And so in the beginning, it just goes in this idea that, hey, every bit of Star Wars has had contradictions. It doesn't matter what you can start from Star Wars on, it starts contradicting itself. So it's like we're going to throw that out the window and then just look at what does the OT actually say the prequels had in it.
Very good. I look forward to. There's. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ben Kenobi says is something about the Clone Wars.
Right.
I think that's about it.
He says a
I'll
lot
have
of
to-
stuff, actually. It goes through.
Yeah,
each one of them.
I'll have to watch the video later today. I've had meetings this morning, so I'll have to get caught up on that. But I look forward to catching that and seeing what do you deduce from the original trilogy to tell the story of the prequel trilogy. And I got a couple other friends here to join the stream today. Jedi Mike is with us. Good morning.
Morning, guys.
And
or afternoon, wherever you're at.
Afternoon, evening, right? And Meg shared with me they've already done their fallback time change over in the UK. It gets me on a rant every year. I hate switching clocks. Let's just set it and leave it. And I don't care what you set it to. I make it 2:15 in the afternoon. I don't care, whatever. And then just leave it there. Just make it happen. I don't care if it's in the middle of the night, middle of the day. I'm just sick and tired of moving it. So,
And I really don't like the people who defend it. They're always like, "Oh, but you get to sleep an extra hour." It's like that's not how it works.
That's not how it works.
That's not how the Force works.
That's not how any of this works. And then we've got Star Wars Obsession. Hello.
Oh, hi.
Bring you in as well. We've got everybody here to talk about the Disney Star Wars, Disney Lucasfilm Star Wars era. And so we have 10 years of content. Actually, there are 20 different things that I have on the list that we went and ranked and rated. It includes multiple seasons. So like Rebels is there are 4 seasons. Which season is your favorite? And that kind of thing. It's a very interesting discussion, just to kind of give folks a bit of a preview of how this works. Let me share my screen because I've done some analytics on it, but not too much. I thought it'd be more fun to just discuss and get people's opinions. So let me get this. Here we go. So, for example, ranking each movie. You can see how many people ranked it their very favorite to their very least favorite, right? So blue indicates this was my very favorite. Purple is my least favorite. And you can see this is very interesting that Rogue One is both 14 people said it's my very favorite. And then we had 15 people say it's my very least favorite. Last Jedi, likewise, it comes in second in the favorite and least favorite. Well, not least favorite, but second in the most favorite. And you kind of just see how that goes, right? Now, the other interesting thing that I thought was fun to look at are these charts that come along. The more colors, the more division. If you want to look at it that way. And the dislike and hate are orange and red. And so if you just kind of look through all of the projects and where do people, what are the movies that people most like and most dislike? You see like The Force Awakens. Here's The Last Jedi. Lots of colors, right? More orange and red in this one. Rise of Skywalker, plenty of orange and red. And then they start to change, right? So that's how the data comes in, and I don't want to bore people to death with those kind of numbers.
Are you kidding me? Like people just showed up and they're like, "This is the most delicious data I've ever seen." Most people don't get to see real data like this. They're like, "Wait a second. We can actually talk about science on YouTube. This is amazing."
Well, it's statistics. I don't know how much you want to go.
Science.
Right? Yeah, we don't have like a statistical.
The science of our community is real.
Yeah. It's I don't know that we have a scientific poll. You have to have blind surveys and stuff like that to get true scientific data. But of the people who watch the show or are engaged in the show. This is to me very interesting, and then I put some averages just to get an idea of how things rank, like order. So you see the rank order based off of average rank. Now this is the lowest score is the highest ranked, right? Because my number 1 would be a low score. 5 would be my least favorite. That'd be a high score. And so we actually have, at this point, 2.86 and 2.86. So we have a tie. Last Jedi and Force Awakens ranks number 1.
Because look at the data. The Last Jedi is the most robust in general, and The Force Awakens is the most mid. I mean, to me, that's what the data says right away.
I think Jedi Mike is right.
Yeah.
Spot on.
It's very interesting. And I go back to this. I thought one of the best things is just to kind of understand it, or how these charts display it. And you can see the Force Awakens largely are in this love it and like it, right? The orange the purple and the blue. And then when you get to Last Jedi, it's fractured, right? And how those numbers work out is interesting, because it has to do with the curve of responses, right?
Fractured but whole.
It's just
too rich. This is just fascinating because it goes exactly to, do people want something in their lives that's going to raise up, and get them going, or do they want something that's more mid, more moderate? Like, this is fascinating.
It evokes strong feelings among the fandom. That's what you can see, right? Strong feelings, strong responses on both ends that make it kind of level back out, where The Force Awakens is more heavily weighted on one side, but still, when you look at how those averages work out, they have the exact same average. So meanwhile, if you rate them, like people say, this is my favorite, this is just ranking order 1 through 5. This is based on their ratings, what I liked versus didn't like. You see, The Last Jedi is 4th out of 5, right? Force Awakens 2. Rogue One boils up to number 1. Again, it's, to me, interesting when you look at the two metrics together, because the one thing I was curious about, and the reason I put it in a survey this way, is just because you say this is my least favorite doesn't mean that you didn't like it.
Yeah.
Or this is my very favorite of these doesn't mean that you loved it. It could just be, this is all mid-range stuff, and if I rank them, I would put this one over that one, but it's all mid-range. In this case, they average out, all of them are averaging above a 3, right? 3 is meh, like just right? So if you look at all the movies and you get up here to Rogue One, that's almost, it averages out or rounds up to 5. That's loved it, right? So if you take the loved it, assign a 5, liked it, assign a 4, meh 3, disliked it 2, hated it
Santa,
1.
I think someone in the comments brings up a really good point. I can't see their full username, but it starts with the Padawan. Everyone who I've ever met in real life who's a Star Wars fan loves the sequels. It's only when you go online people start hating on them.
What?
I agree with that, and I'm a good friend of mine.
That's not true in my circles.
That's
I guess it's, but I mean, maybe in your circles it's true, but in my group of friends it's not true.
I wear a Last Jedi shirt all the time. I got like the theatrical one, and maybe people are just polite. Maybe it's polite society, but no one ever
Where
goes.
does that exist today?
I just bought
Everybody always goes.
The Last
I like the
Jedi
shirt.
artwork is badass. If you're wearing a Last Jedi shirt, people are looking at you like, well, you've got a niche badass fashion, and I want to be your friend.
Well, like I said,
I wish.
one of my real life friends, like, it comes over for our Bible study every week. We go to different things together as families. We raised our kids together. He does not care for how Luke was portrayed in The Last Jedi, and so it's his least favorite. But he still likes the sequels. He just is grumpy about that one thing. So
you still feel good when you go buy a new Star Wars T-shirt at Target. Like, that's the vibe. Like,
Yeah, but
that's what we're
Santa,
talking
there's
about.
a huge difference between your friends saying, you know what, I didn't like the way Luke was portrayed, and just attacking Star Wars fans online because they like Rey.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but
Look,
I don't attack. I don't like the sequels, but I don't attack Star Wars fans because they don't like Rey. I mean, I can say I don't like the sequels. I have friends who say I don't like the sequels. Maybe I like this part or I like this thing, but I don't like the sequels without attacking people. I mean, that's attacking and disliking, and not liking something are not necessarily the same thing. I mean, agree that you can have, what's the word I'm looking for? Combatant people, that are overzealous people on the internet. That's true. And we do get to collect them from all over the world in one location with an anonymous, I get to say whatever I want and there's nothing you can do about it but block me kind of, kind of interactions versus, what Mike Tyson says, the problem with the internet is that people don't get punched in the face enough when they get to be rude. I mean, if you're mean to me and you're in my face, and you're being overly belligerent, then there's a good chance that it turns physical, which people don't want to do, which they don't have the threat of over the internet, so people can do whatever they want.
I can't remember which video it was that I saw this on, but someone did like a breakdown of the fandom from the start till the end of like the Skywalker saga, and apparently the same thing happened in 2002 with Attack of the Clones. Like a lot of real life people. Well, everyone's a real life person, but like outside of the internet, most people were kind of like, that was a decent film. It broke a lot of boundaries. It was like the first all digital science fiction movie. But then online, all of the forums were like, George Lucas ruined everything.
Well, I mean, look, Jason is here. Like that was what was happening. Like we're there. We actually experienced 99, Force Awakens, what the internet was like. Who's telling the truth? We're here talking about it now. And one other thing before we go on, so people understand, when we just looked at the data, right, we're talking about our community of Star Wars people that Santa sent stuff out to. We're all 3, 4s, and 5s in this pool of people. There's no 1s and 2s in terms of enthusiasm. So let's put that on the table too, because I respect what Imagic Maker's saying, and it's totally valid. And then also we're in this truthful moment where we can ask Jason, what was it really like to be scooping stuff? What was the fandom? How toxic was it? Because I was there. It was pretty much like now, I think.
Well, like with the like Star Wars prequels, you had a bunch of original people who were there when they were children for the original trilogy, who then jumped ship, and then you had a bunch of, I don't know if you would call it the Titanic crowd. That's not really truly accurate, but like the Titanic people, that was the goal of Attack of the Clones, was to get the Titanic audience into Star Wars. And
I don't like sand.
Yeah, but it did. It like literally replaced them. The prequels didn't really gain traction. They just kind of like lost an audience and then gained a new audience. And then when we get to the sequel trilogy era, we obviously have social media and a lot of racists and stuff like that. And it was like it seemed a little bit scarier, to be honest with you. Like in terms of like the emails, I didn't scoop back then. But I was like involved. And then when we got to the sequel trilogy, that's when people who shouldn't have a voice have a voice now, and are just saying stuff all the time. And then it seems way worse. But I kind of think it happened again, because then you had like the Raylos like come in, and it was sort of like the Attack of the Clones thing, but they were nuts because Tumblr made them nuts.
Well, I mean, it really started in Phantom Menace. I mean, if you're gonna, I mean, really, the trolling and the hating started in the original Star Wars, right? Like the fandom's been at war since Star Wars came to scene. Mm-hmm. There's always been these, people that want to tear apart no matter what the content is, and that's fine. But ultimately, the prequels launched a large campaign against Jar Jar, for one, right? That was a huge hate mob that came after that character and the actor that portrayed that. And then fast forward, a decade or more, and the hate's still there. It's just part of fandom, right? I mean,
Nikki saw racist is just as overused as woke. Nikki, when I broke the story that Finn was a stormtrooper and I got emails telling me N-words aren't stormtroopers, that's racist, Nikki. It just is what it is.
I was going to ask you, Jason, exactly that question, because you see a lot of outlets who covered the racism towards Kelly Marie Tran, John Boyega, And then I've heard other sources say it was all overblown.
Well, I do think that Nikki has a point. It's overused. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. There certainly is racism, and there is the anti-woke crowd and the woke folks who just want to see things changed to represent things. They don't really care about the story. They just want to see representation brought in. That is all part of it. That's for certain, and it's overused. Because if somebody comes along and says, well, I didn't like The Last Jedi because ABC, and they've got a well-reasoned, like, this just isn't my flavor, they can be called racist or bigots or misogynists as a default, even though that's not what they're espousing. It's because they kind of get grouped in. And the same thing happens on the other. Like, I love The Last Jedi. Well, that makes you woke.
That's because you're woke, Santa.
Yeah, right. Right.
Nikki, I just want to address this point. She says real racists are drowned out. I really don't think they are. You've got people on YouTube like Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh who are literally as far right as some of the Germans in the 1930s. They have the biggest platforms. There's no drowning out of people who spout that sort of hate.
No, the internet has done nothing but
I don't think we should be pulling those guys into this in any sort of political discussion. I think that if we go down this path, you're going to get.
We'll get pulled off of Star Wars. Yeah, we'll get pulled off.
I think it's all related, though, because
you
it's
have
all
to
about
realize
discourse
what you're
and
talking
social
about.
media.
Yeah.
We're talking about the enthusiasm of the fandom within us and what we're talking about in Star Wars. And we're confusing that with the possibility of a discussion about corporate espionage and how the fandom was looked at. Was Jar Jar us, or was Jar Jar, the studio bullshit? Is now the environment of social media and studio KKBS in the fandom, or is it the real stuff that's going on in the streets with certain issues? Yeah, we're conflating a lot of things here, but we can easily unwind it, and we should be able to talk about it. Let's just make sure Santa can facilitate it all, because it's really important what we're talking about, and it's all real.
Right?
Absolutely. I think Mike is right.
I'm not saying that there aren't racist people who don't like things for racist reasons or for rightist or leftist reasons. Whether it's I don't like the original trilogy because there's not enough representation. I don't like it, in the sequel trilogy because it's not the appropriate representation or whatever it might be. I mean, I'm sure we can go down these, but these are not, in my opinion, Star Wars discussions. They're real life discussions.
But they go hand in hand, because you do
they
find people who do have that prominence talking about Star Wars. A lot of these people are massive Star Wars fans, and they take it to that place.
There are people grifting on, and that is absolutely happening. And I wanted to let Obsession kind of get in next, but people are grifting onto the discussion from the political or other positions. They're not actually coming at it from within the fandom, boiling up. It's coming from outside to grift on, and that is absolutely happening.
Alex Jones doesn't get involved with pop culture and doesn't send minions out to try to change how things are talked about, Nikki. I'm sorry, Nikki. There's a lot of stuff. I get where you're going. Sometimes you're right. There's a little bit of rightness in the sense that sometimes there is just a kid going N-word. That sure, it exists. But if you're going to act like there aren't think tanks that are actually giving super chat money to get ideas into like YouTube spaces, I'm sorry, but that's just not true. I think you know some of them. I think you're friends with
Obsession. I'm dying to hear you.
Well, look, I mean, this is you can't argue racism. It's an argument that is a moot argument, right? Everybody's a little bit of everything, right? And that's, I guess, the grand scheme of the mouse, is that they could have cast this whole thing very, very differently, right? All of these sequel movies, they could have cast them very differently had they wanted to. This was not a woke thing. This was not a stir the pot kind of thing. This was casting a story that was different from the previous stories, and people always want to insert these narratives into things that are popular because those are what get clicks, right? Clicks. It's all about clicks, especially nowadays. The hate that was generated during the prequels was a totally different kind of hate, right? It wasn't online banter. It was people writing studios and complaining. It wasn't Twitter and a mindless tweet. It was people had to take time to complain back.
It was easy journalism. It was Entertainment Tonight being like, "Yeah, mom, that's racist." It's very complicated and nuanced. We're looking at the perspective. We're looking at the perspective of people and how they view art through the prequels and how it compares to the 10 years now that we're looking at and the enthusiasm now. And we're saying sometimes, especially now, we're seeing it more. People are holding up prisms that the fandom can't help but work through.
Look, this was something that I found in my youth that I found hilarious as a child growing up with Star Wars, right? I found it hilarious that the bad guy in all of these movies was a 6 foot tall guy in a suit wearing a cape. And then when I found out he was voiced by James Earl Jones, I was like, rad, right? I was like, totally put those together as a child. You don't really think about all that. And then at the end, it's a white dude coming off with the helmet. To me, that struck me as just hilarious irony back when I was a child. Because I'm like, but that's the guy from Field of Dreams' voice. He's not in there, right? So to me, I didn't see it as a white guy and a black guy and a white guy. I was like, wait a minute, I thought James Earl Jones was in that suit. I was just
he was always Thulsa Doom's voice to me.
But so me, as a child, right, I didn't think about this as a racist thing. I was just like, whoa, that's crazy.
No,
put that
because how you perceive and construct art over time in your mind is very awesome and unique, and we love your imagination. And it's different.
Let me put it this way: like when I was younger and more involved with political activism, I got involved with.
Come on, get out of here.
It's a true thing. I did like boycotts and stuff like that.
He still enslaved the elves. That explains what about elves' rights.
Right. Now you know why he's anti-union.
I got involved in those kind of things, like boycotting things and speaking against different brands because they were supporting things that I didn't, and wouldn't go see movies because an actor supported something that I opposed to. All of that. And what I found, for me personally, is that was causing too much problems with me enjoying life. And something became more important to me is enjoying my life, being happy, and loving the people around me. And those things became less important for me to be an activist about. I still hold many of the same positions and views. It's just I'm not leading with that, and I'm not going to let that affect my relationships to other people, my overall happiness. So I think there's people going through that kind of evolution within their lives, and we see that today just as much as we did, except we have this social media now that allows that to be amplified 100-fold, if not more. Right?
Now you're talking about collective learning, and you're going to blow people's minds.
What's that, Meg?
Were you a hippie, Santa?
No.
No, he's a teacher. He understands that collective learning happens over time, and we experience story, right? A Magic Maker through oral tradition over time. Experience changes with perspective.
I think oral teaches people a lot of lessons. So irreversible.
And here's the last thing I want to say about it, and this is something that I try to do in real life. Is life is a matter of perspective, right? It's all about things that you've been through and how you view it through your lens.
Yeah.
It's hard to view things from the other side, but the truth of the matter is, the bare bones of the matter is, we have more in common than we don't. Yeah. And we let the things that we don't have in common drive our conversation, right? I try in life to build bridges between the people that I don't agree with, whether it's politics, food, Star Wars, whatever. I prefer to build bridges than tear them down, right? So for me, it's across my whole life. I live in a toxic environment. In what I do for a living, it is more toxic than it is pleasurable, and you have to build bridges. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting alone, right? And no one wants to be the kid in the the kid in the corner eating lunch in the bathroom. You know what I mean?
So yeah,
And
I think it's selective bridge building, though. I think sometimes you got to build selective bridges, and sometimes you just need to shout across the river.
Well, I don't know. Mike, Mike,
what we're literally experiencing here is the fact that the questions happen with the friction. We were talking about the survey. We were looking at certain things, and then that creates a certain discussion, and then we're broadening back out. To me, that's all that's been happening. And it was about enthusiasm, and then you see how we're able to have this conversation as a gift of the Force. I think.
Yeah, I do want to get back to the survey and talk about the Disney Lucasfilm era of Star Wars. As I mentioned earlier, there's 20 different items listed here as we break out like seasons and things. And I wanted to bring up another point, and I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier, is when we start to look at like these pie charts. Now this is based off of loved it to hated it, and the less colors, the fewer colors in the chart shows more agreement. More colors is less agreement, and I find it interesting to me just as visual. Not to get too deep into the data, but just visually, when you look at The Force Awakens, right, 3 colors. Last Jedi, we hit all the colors, right, all of them. Same with Rise of Skywalker, we hit all the colors, so we get lots of different opinions.
Diversity. Oh, sorry.
It's great, yeah.
Sorry,
and Rogue one great big, right, the love it, and then a little bit of diversity in there. Solo, a mix. Including some folks who haven't seen it, right? And
That's so weird. I love you guys, but you guys would watch a Star Wars stream but didn't see a Star Wars movie? Like, how do you just not watch it out of curiosity when you're just bored one day? You got a little sniffle, you stay home from work, and just like, hey, you know what? I'll check it out.
I find it very interesting too, especially when we start to get down into the animation, and we'll look at that in a moment. But look at the Mandalorian. Look at that big bulk of. Like before that, the biggest one was Rogue One with 65, almost 66% of the love it. You get into Mandalorian season 1, 71%. Season 2, almost 80% of. Now this is just, of course, my community, folks who watch my streams, who took time to fill out this survey. Right? There's only
How
30.
Can you not love Mandalorian season 2? You have Bo Karen, Ahsoka, Luke.
Yeah, well, we also have haven't seen it. Again, I don't know how you're that person. Well, you don't have a Disney Plus subscription, right?
So the first thing I think is Imagic Maker can speak to it. Things that look and seem similar to original trilogy stuff seems to be what rises to the level of I love, not too stressed about. And then when we see content that might be challenging, I don't know. What do you think, Imagic Maker?
No, I do think that people are looking for the same feel, and then you got people in my age group which are going to go and who have kids and will, and get them to sit down with them, and so that was a big drive when we went and saw The Force Awakens. That was there's a big nostalgic feeling, actually. I mean, like, we still watch the Force Awakens with the kids, and we still love it, and we still get it recalls us back to when Star Wars came back into the theater after 10 years, and so there's still that good feeling that comes with it, and then we don't really watch the other two.
So what I'm hearing in that quick bite right there, what I'm hearing is that it's not the characters or the Black Stormtrooper or anything about that is the mainstream argument about Daisy being the main character. It sounds to me like it's just the directing and the direction that story took more than what people really complain about. Am I hearing that right?
Or is it nostalgia? Sounds like nostalgia.
Well, but
nostalgia is a big portion of it because it hits the same beats, but it is the story. I mean, because when you hit the Last Jedi, the feeling that you have for Luke is hammered, so that puts a hard break on that nostalgic feeling and what you're expecting, and so without a pre-setup for that, that's where people are coming up going, I can't handle this portion. You just gave me something my mind wasn't ready for.
Yep.
And,
Dominic's picking a fight with Meg.
Rebels is the best.
That's actually my favorite animation. I like it more
Is
than
it the best
Clone Wars.
animation, or is it the best animated storytelling?
Story-wise.
Storytelling.
To me, it's storytelling. I will kind of pick a fight on the Black Stormtrooper thing, but not because of what y'all think. I personally think that all the Imperials should be white males. I don't think there should be any other colors. I don't think there should be any females in there. And for one reason and one reason only, it drives a point home that they are very, very segregationist. They pull everybody out, but this one category. And I think to me that drives it
It's
home.
interesting you say that, Imagic, because I also mentioned it in my Andor episode 9 breakdown. That's very much what George said, George Lucas. And if you hear, I don't know if you've seen episode 9, but one of the doctors of the Imperials basically talks about how they tortured this species on an outer rim moon, and it just shows you the speciesism and elitism of the Empire. So I do see where you're coming from.
Yeah. I want to get to Ghost Rider's question in a bit, but because we're going to transition from the movies in the survey to the live action. Again, just to kind of hit on it, if you just look at the rating order based on what people liked the most to like the least, Rogue One and The Force Awakens rise to the top there. And then you see Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker at the bottom. If we move over to the live action and kind of address the question, is you see on the same ranking, Mandalorian Season 2 comes up at the top, followed by Season 1, and then Andor, which isn't even complete yet, which very interesting to me, then followed by Obi-Wan and Book of Boba, which, again, you start to get into a lot of fractured opinions. People who said it's my favorite, people who said it's my least favorite. People said I loved it, people say I hate it. So very fractured there. It doesn't mean everybody hated it, as opposed to what some people would have you believe. Some people absolutely do love it, and but you see as far as like live action, Mandalorian is by far. Well, I don't know if I should say by far. When you look at they round up to 5, right, on the average rating, which is loved it, and then it drops down to 4, which is liked it, if you round it, right? So, Mandalorian at the top. Is that a surprise to anybody?
I think we're seeing the same data. I think we're seeing the same thing, that it's always, whether it's live action or it's movie, when the story drops, when we lose the plot, we lose the part of the story that we love so much in Star Wars, right? Like, it seems like, yes, we're seeing, if it looks like a certain era, that's better for a totality of fans, especially within our community. But man, when you lose the story thread, you've lost us either way.
Yeah, does that say something about fans being collectively stupid, and that if the stupider the premise, the more simple it is, the easier that they can follow it? I mean, I don't mean that like in a bad way, because it's like
I would argue that it's continuity. So the simpler a story is, the easier it is to keep continuity through it. And so I think the more complex you get, the more pieces that you have to keep together as you're writing and telling the story and directing. And so it becomes, those threads can be lost, and the more threads that are lost, the more you're going to lose people who follow and catch those things. And so I would find that if you haven't, most issues that you have with the prequels, the most issues that you have with the sequels really are continuity of story and continuity of character. And so, I mean, I'm not saying people don't complain about other things, but really, if you were to break it down, I think that's where you would find that people in their mind feel there's a continuity break.
Well, especially in this nerdy group. I mean, it all comes down to like we're trying to figure out, okay, what was happening in the writer's room for Rise of Skywalker and Kenobi and the Vespa thing. Like just that little thing right there. Like what in the hell happened with these little plot things? Because everything else has been pretty good Star Wars.
I mean, and I just feel like it comes largely back to expectation, right? That's where a lot of people get derailed. I go into a lot of this content expecting as little as possible, right? Just in what I expect them to give me. I don't write this. I don't direct this. I have no say in it. I'm along for the ride. I'm a passenger, right? Yeah. And so I happen to be an enthusiastic passenger that knows what kind of wheels are on the train and knows what kind of drive is on the train, but I don't get a part and a say in how the train runs or where it goes. So I think a lot of people
but I'll say this. You'd be pretty mad if the guy was taking you on the road and all of a sudden goes through the ditch, jumps across the field, bangs your head on the ceiling. You'd be like, yeah, I'm not really along for this ride. This is not.
I mean, you don't know me very well. That sounds like an awesome ride to me.
That sounds way cooler.
I don't know about the whole passenger thing. I think fans should have some expectation.
Some, but not so much that it burns down the house when a scene goes the way that they didn't like. That's all I'm saying. Look, I lost money on Kenobi. I'm the first one to complain that they did this and that I didn't like. But at the same time, I don't sit here and go, that was the worst show I've ever seen. Right?
I look, I think everybody is entitled to have their own opinion about everything. When it comes to entertainment, it's your opinion. It's your enjoyment. And what you enjoy and what you don't, you should be able to express freely without being attacked for those opinions. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And how you construct what you enjoy versus how you construct what you don't, and how that aligns will vary from person to person to person. And so while Imagic Maker says, yeah, we jumped off the road, went through the ditch, banged my head, and did this, I didn't experience any of that, right? When it comes to the sequels, I loved it. I had a great ride.
There's like a difference between expectations and continuity.
I'm not saying
at the same time, right? I mean, and that's where that's like a personal line where some people go, "You broke continuity now," but the creatives are like, "No, we circumvented your expectations. We took the story a place you didn't anticipate it going. Kenobi and Leia hang out. You didn't see that coming, and they think it's a good idea, and some people don't. But at the end of the day, it's what are you going to do if they continue to make new content with established story and lore? It's gonna change. I mean, that's why that's where I'm like you. I'm a somewhat of I'm like a passenger. I'm like, okay, you think it's a good idea? I'm going to sit down and hear you out and see where you take it. That's kind of how I take it too.
Yeah. I let me just add an observation I think has been expressed over and over again. When you go with a new story with new characters that aren't already established within the existing context or lore, then there's less opportunity to break somebody's expectation.
Right, but with the Mandalorian, that is almost the exception to that rule for most Star Wars fans, right? Because it's new and it's fresh and it's something aside of Star Wars we haven't seen. But as soon as they bring Bo-Katan and Luke and Ahsoka in it, everybody's like, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Well, there is that, but look at Andor as well. Right? You've got some characters.
Is that ending? Is that ending for Mando now that it's had like 2 stellar seasons? And
no, dude, if anything, they're going to crank that thing up to 11.
I just want to address what Obsession said. I'm one of those fans. Mm-hmm. I'm exactly one of those fans who just went crazy for Ahsoka and Bo-Katan in live action. For me, that was just powerful.
And they're fabulous. Look, they're fabulous. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but all of a sudden it's like Mandalorian is amazing because it's new and different and it stays away from the original content characters. But then all of a sudden we bring in these 3 or 4 characters from the OG and everybody's like,
but it's low stakes. It's low stakes.
I didn't like The Mandalorian season 1. So I was never on that first train.
What didn't like, or you weren't as hyped? Did
I
you?
wasn't as hyped. I didn't like a lot of the characters. I didn't like Fennec Shand until season 2. I think The Mandalorian's one of those things where, for some people, it's an acquired taste and it takes a while to kind of absolutely adore it. So
I
going
think
back
Andor
to
is gonna
season
be
1
the same
after
way.
season 2, I had a much deeper appreciation for this character arc.
Well, and I hope that that's how Andor is received also in season 2, right? I hope that the same feeling for Andor is expressed with as the same way Mandalorian was expressed. Season 1 was like, I like it, but I don't know how much I like it. And then season 2 comes out and you're like, okay, I really like it. Right. And that's kind of the feeling I hope Andor gets, because Andor got no press, got no love because it got sandwiched between a couple of shows. It just seems like this show could have that kind of longevity also.
See, I kind of have a theory here that season 3 and 4 of Mandalorian are going to see fans start to have expectations. They're going to start to put on what is the Mandalorian. It is defined in their brains now. It's had a couple of years to gestate, and I think that they might start to be a lot harder on it. And then when you look at like Ahsoka, Luke Skywalker, and Bo-Katan, they didn't come on and actually write a new album. They just played the greatest hits of what they do.
Yeah,
that's all they did so far.
Totally agree.
So yeah, and it's smart. It's smart if you like I think JJ got in, did the greatest hits of Star Wars, got out, genius. Came back in, tried to do an encore of originals. No, get out. You're dumb, man. You were good. You were golden.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I want to quickly talk about the animated in the survey as well, because this I found when you look at haven't watched in the movies, there's one person who hasn't seen one movie. When you look at the live action,
reveal yourself.
It's obviously
I wanna
Shrub
talk to
the
you.
Wise. Shrub the Wise does not like movies.
that's it. But when you get to live action, the number bumps up more consistently, and I can see that where you go back to that activism and like I was right. I would get involved in the protests against whatever, right? And there
You've
are
got
people
to tell
who
us now,
cancel.
Santa. What did you protest?
Yeah, what'd you protest, Anna?
No, I'm not doing it. Not
Do
doing
it.
it. No.
Let's get him.
Look, you guys know.
Tell us after the show.
I've been a conservative Republican my whole life. I'm a Bible believing Christian. So very right wing on the side of a lot of that stuff. And there were things going on that I saw that today people would talk about in a little different context, but it was sort of the early kind of movement of that where
You can't skirt around it, Santa. You've just got to tell us.
let me give you one example. Dan Quayle once took on Murphy Brown, raising a kid.
I remember that. I was
Right.
a kid. I remember that.
And I thought Dan Quayle was right. And I agreed with Dan Quayle in premise on what he was talking about, that TV ought to reflect more values than these outlier situations. And
Like
so-
when George Bush said it should be like the Waltons, and everybody was like, "What era are you living in, George Bush?"
yeah, I mean, I didn't disagree with that.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of where I was.
No wonder,
And then,
no wonder you hate John Lennon.
right. And then I saw like Disney did things. So I got where, okay, I'm not going to support anything Disney. And then I saw where different things were happening, different movies. There was one Christian movie that came out that had an actor who had been divorced. I refused to watch the movie because that actor had been divorced, and I disagreed with divorce. All of that kind of stuff. That's where I was. So
But Santa, you're such a nice person. I can't imagine you having these views.
I'm sorry. I'm just kind of, like I said, those have become
Wait,
more
are you
important to
saying
me.
nice people think differently than each other?
Oh man, this is.
I am saying
do.
that. I'm saying most people on that side
I love it.
are nightmare.
So Santa, my question is: do you think Cassian Andor got a justified trial?
No. Obsession.
It was so hard to keep the straight
I'm a
face.
tourist.
I'm a tourist. Sorry.
Nobody's
Anyway.
listening. Nobody's listening.
Trying to get us back on track. Animated stuff. We see even higher numbers of people who haven't watched. So I can understand maybe people don't have a Disney Plus subscription because they're protesting that, right? They're like, I'm not going to support this company that does things that I don't like.
Capitalism is my power. I vote with my dollar.
Exactly, and I mean we see that on both sides.
Santa,
people.
did you do that thing where those people boycotted Disney Plus after Cara Dune was fired?
No, I had since
I don't even know how we got here. I thought we just shifted to the cartoon, the animated stuff. How did?
No, we're talking about how we have one person that hasn't watched anything on Disney Plus, right? So I see that. And Andor, it's just started. They're waiting for it to get further in. I get that. And we get to animated, the number clicks up. Look at Resistance down here, right? A lot of people said, nah, that's not for me, man.
It's a really hard show to digest.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
It was
really
it's
hard. Exactly what it is.
For a grown-up to digest, that was a really hard show to digest.
You mean digest like why they're making the jokes the way that they are?
No, just the animation style. The animation style was just tough to get through as somebody, I just expected something different. Again, that's my expectation, but it was really hard for me to get through.
I was okay with the
like in different like it wanted to be Speed Racer for a time, and I was on board, and then it didn't do it. And then I liked Bobby Moynihan in it. I kind of wish they'd bring Bobby Moynihan back into some Star Wars stuff. But yeah, it kind of just, it never got its like rhythm, it felt like.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like the father-son relationship was so Star Wars. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. For me, it did its 2-year arc. Right. It was fine. Yeah. It was fine. What I think, so my point is that it's not about conspiracy of who's boycotting it. It's just how many people watch certain level programming with their kids. It's all about comprehension level.
Well,
all this stuff is comprehension level.
And a lot of people didn't know Resistance existed either.
Right? Yeah, Disney XP, right?
This was a Disney XP.
Who has cable versus? It was a weird time.
It was a weird time, and this stuff wasn't all streaming like it is now. It wasn't all on one platform like it is now. You had to.
Well, that's a really good point, Obsession, and it's something that's true as well about Rebels. Because Rebels initially came out on Disney XD as well. And I watched part of season 1 and said, nope, I'm out. But
Rebels had the support of StarWars.com. It's totally different era. Like, we're talking about so many variables here. I don't mind talking about all these variables. It's fascinating, but
I think you're right. But the same thing, like it was on Disney XD. I didn't have cable. I didn't have a Disney XD on my cable package.
Right.
And I just didn't care about it. And then when I did try to watch it, I didn't like it. And I just was out until after word of mouth caught up and people convinced me to give it another try.
Well,
I went back.
Even looking at your poll, Sam, I mean, if Rebels is season 1 is 8th on the list, right? Close to on the bottom 3. I mean, those 3 would be getting a rose and getting out of town, right? So
talk about a poll.
You're looking at your own poll, right? I mean,
but look at the number of people who haven't watched it versus the number of people who didn't watch Disney XD.
Right.
Disney XD. Right?
It just shows that the first season was not everybody's favorite season of Rebels. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed young Ezra the most. Just the show called Rebels, and he was such a rebel against everything. It just fit for me. But a lot of people didn't really get excited about that show until deep in the second season, when they started really getting into, him building his own lightsaber, him losing his lightsaber, Inquisitor stuff. Like it built over time.
This is literally the perfect place to talk about the confluence of like comprehension and stuff, because I talk to Sheev about this all the time. If you didn't read the book by Jonathan Jackson Miller, who wrote the Kenobi Legends book, it's called A New Dawn. Like, Hera and Kanan meet in that book, and you learn how they fall in love, and you learn about the Imperial mining, and you learn everything about Lucas and the future of where Lucasfilm can go. It's like the perfect pivot. And that's like, and if you didn't read that book, you didn't understand. And then that goes to my argument. If you did not read The Legends of Luke Skywalker, the book about Luke going to different planets and studying the Force before he goes and is like in The Last Jedi, you just perceive it differently.
I think in that book, Luke became a king on some random planet. Is that the book you're talking about? I think that's one of the obscure.
Well, they worshipped him because he had such a thing with the Force, but then also he understood his relationship to the Force, because on one planet they just called gravity of the oceans, they called it the wave or whatever, and that's how they saw Force, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
It's absolutely brilliant. But look, no one has the time on their hands or the spirituality of me to dig in to do that stuff. Your relative experience to Star Wars is absolutely about the frame of reference and the comprehension level that you consume the art. And that's super nerdy and no one wants to hear about that. But it's great that we're opening up this door, Santa. You give us an opportunity because you expose yourself about silly political things or the joy of a 3-inch figure or whatever it is. We get to talk about it.
I'm so glad you said figure.
You shouldn't have said that with Meg.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Santa's other 3-incher.
Don't talk about Santa's pole anymore.
Purpose today. I wore this.
Thank you, Mike.
I
That's
think
great.
Mike brings up a really good point that could kind of tie into this. Is you're talking about one of the first Disney Star Wars canon novels, and a lot of fans who were reading the books during that time, kind of before a lot of this animation came back, like the Clone Wars Season 7, Bad Batch, all of that kind of thing, they kind of feel hard done by because they're quite flexible to retcon a lot from those novels.
Yeah.
Comic books, all that stuff is hot in the news right now. How does it feel to retcon it? But if Dave's doing it, Dave Filoni's retconning it, then I feel good.
You're going to drag me into another.
It's all control issues within the Star Wars community.
A lot of that content from that time was adding peppering and stuff that was intended to happen, intended to come out, that didn't. And so there's concepts in those books that they just ended up not really following up on it. So some of that stuff does tend to get kind of retcon now.
Yeah, sorry, last thing, Santa. It's like if you want to see the devil inside of the Lucasfilm story group, then that's what you want to see. If you want to see enthusiastic optimism towards an open universe of art and storytelling, then that's what you want to see. For me.
Yeah, I agree with you. Another interesting thing here, just looking at the animated, if you round these up to whole numbers, right? We have 3 of these that round up to love it. Again, this is a small population. We only got 30-some responses, right? It's a small population, but of that, we have 3 of the projects people love, and if you look at the next tier down, right, these all round to Force, right, like it, and you only have 2 projects really that are down under a 4, that under a 3 really, under meh, right, like take it or leave it, which when we talk about the Disney era, this is what the premise of the show is. Look at the Disney era and look at how many projects fall into that average of 4 or 5 in this community. Again, it's not a scientific survey by any means, by any stretch, right?
Can I ask you something really quickly? We put the link in the chat when we started the show. Are these numbers reflecting people in the chat who've done it, or do we need to refresh? I'm just curious.
We've only gotten 2 new responses during the show.
Okay.
And let me take a look here. We can actually see what the last response was. Force Awakens 5, 4, 3. So Rogue One was their favorite, and then Solo. We have some love it, like it, dislike it. So that's what the last one that just came in. But
got it. Okay.
And just looking at how the average is here. Oh, wrong tab.
Santa, I think there's a really insightful question you need to answer. This is from Baymax. If a human bones a Twi'lek, how does that work biologically? Aren't Twi'leks a completely different species?
Is it bestiality?
Wow.
Well, I know in the old like Catholic Church stuff, if you were to hook up with like a fairy or an elf, that was bestiality, and it was a charge of bestiality. I'm not.
You get patchy looking children. Just look at.
Dude, what did you do your master's on? Why were you doing this research? What in the world? No, we'll talk about that.
I read a lot of UFO books, and I come across some fairy stuff in it every now and then, and sometimes the discussions go in places you wouldn't expect.
Well, we actually have this example, right? In Star Wars. Right? A human and a Twi'lek having
Jason
children.
Solo, or Jason Syndulla.
Jason Syndulla.
Well, that
named
too.
after me because I'm a superstar.
It's not easy being green.
So Mandalorian, all these are a Disney era Lucasfilm, right? Disney, Lucasfilm era Star Wars. How many of the projects, do we have 20 of them listed here, are in the like it, love it? If you just look, these all round up to love it. And so we've got, 6 here?
Yeah.
6 of the 20 are round up to love it. Another that round up to, say, 4. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Right? 9 and 6, 15 of the 20 round up to like it or love it. Then we get down into the things where it's more mediocre to less. Book of Boba Fett, Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, and Resistance. That's it. If you throw Obi-Wan Kenobi in there, which actually rounds up to 4, but if you throw it in, I'd say the bulk of what we have, at least within this population of responses, people are generally liking to loving.
Can I marry a porg?
The better question is a Jawa, right? That we do have a human Jawa relationship documented now as well. And
Are you going to turn her in?
She's short.
If you stay in shape like Pelimoto and you're sweating to the oldies, you're allowed to hang with the Jawas. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Very funny. Just overall, I curious to see, looking back on the last 10 years, if you were to say you're high on it, medium, or low on the Lucasfilm era of Star Wars, where would you put it? Jason, go ahead.
Wait. Say that again. I'm sorry.
On the Lucasfilm era of the Disney Lucasfilm era of Star Wars.
Right.
What we've been talking about. Are you, as a whole, is it you generally high on it, medium,
Yes.
low, or mixed bag? Where are you?
Yeah, I'm high on it mostly. I'm like low high. I wouldn't say I'm mid, but I'm definitely like on the lower end of it being good, and of it being very, very positive. Like, I'm actually never gone to pay for. I go to the movies all the time. I love going to the movies, and I leave the movies pretty mad a lot. And I've never left a Star Wars movie actually mad. Like, oh, go, like, no, I was always like, you know what, that was a pretty good time. And
Wow.
like, that's really like the most that I could usually ask for something. And same thing with the TV shows. Like, I really do think like Book of Boba Fett is mostly a travesty, but I had fun watching it every week at the same time. It's only a travesty because I see like the potential, what could have been, what they could have done. But then I look at what they did do, and I'm like, you know what, I still had a good time though.
Yeah.
So,
Meg, where are you on the?
I will have to go after I answer this, but I'd absolutely agree with Jason. Even stuff I didn't really enjoy, it's been a fun journey.
So let me ask, since you've got to go, looking forward, are you optimistic?
I'm very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about next year with Mando, Ahsoka, definitely high on Skeleton Crew and Acolyte. I think this could be a new era for Star Wars, which kicked off with Andor.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Meg. Love you
Half
so
always
much.
half full.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Santa,
appreciate
so
it.
much for having me.
All right,
Nice
take
speaking
care.
with everyone. Thank you. Bye.
I wish she was
Bye-bye.
animated.
Love you, girl.
Doing that. She does on her videos.
Exactly. Mike, Jedi Mike, where are you on looking back over the last 10 years? How would you say?
I think in education, when you're learning and you're learning and you're learning, but you make a couple mistakes, you're in a good zone of proximal development. And so Lucasfilm is in an awesome place. I'm optimistic like Meg. When I go into a museum, I know what the paint is and I understand the medium that the artist is choosing, and I don't bring too much expectations in it, but still, if it's something new art and I don't know what to expect, maybe I'll react to it. But for me in general, I'm optimistic for sure.
An obsession. Where are you looking back on the last 10 years? You're muted.
Oh, I can't be muted.
Now you are.
Yeah, I am. I'm really high on it. I gotta be honest. It's I'm probably the most enthusiastic about the Disney era. I know a lot of people aren't happy with it, but you got to remember the things that they brought us and that they finished. Clone Wars was on its way out. George was broke. There wasn't this streaming platform for him to sell to. He was on Disney's third or fourth tier channel, making a lot of this Clone Wars stuff. And without Disney, we wouldn't have so much of what we have right now. So for me, I know a lot of people hate the Disney era, but it gave us the finishing of Clone Wars, Rebels, bringing back Clone Wars. If you're just looking at the animation stuff that's given us lore, it's amazing. Now, the movies, they gave us a little bit of divide, but for me, I'm still really high on it because I think now that Dave's in charge and he's the apprentice to George Lucas, I think it's in much better hands, and I think there's a lot of repair work that he's doing in all of the shows they're making now. So yeah. I'm really up on it. I'm enthusiastic about it, probably the most.
And I agree with everything you said. The sequels to me gave me life again. The prequels to me have me disconnected and distant. So the Force Awakens came on, and I fell in love with Rey right away, and I fell in love with the story. Last Jedi, I enjoyed. And I didn't understand. That's what got me into the YouTube sphere.
So would you say you divorced Star Wars? You divorced Star Wars with the prequel? Is that when you?
I see where you're going. We were just sleeping in different bedrooms.
Okay. Fair enough.
I see where you're going, but the sequels reinvigorated my love for Star Wars. Got me passionate about Star Wars again, and got me involved in this YouTube community because of wanting to understand the fandom more. I built more relationships and have this platform because of the sequels. And the Disney era to me has been a godsend. It's been absolutely wonderful. It's a glorious time in Star Wars. So that pivots me to the looking forward. I asked Meg because she had to go, but Jason, looking forward, are you optimistic, on the fence, or kind of on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's right to call a decade like phase one and use the Marvel analogy, but I feel like the phase one of the Star Wars project that Disney picked up had a lot of baggage because of things that it had to deal with, like the prequels had to reset expectations and all that kind of stuff. And now that we're going forward, a lot of the problems that people have are, well, Luke Skywalker is what I say he is, not what you say he is. Or whatever happens to be. Yeah, headcanon. We get away from that now. Like when we get to Acolyte, when we get even Andor to some extent, like, and then all of these different shows that don't have anything. Skeleton Crew. I don't have expectations about what Skeleton Crew is supposed to be, other than I want some Goonies in it. Be good Goonies, Star Wars, and I'm happy. I mean, if it just kind of baseline does that, it's done what I expect it to like do. So so there's not that same kind of stuff that's going to keep people down. And also accessibility is a very big issue and a problem with all of these big kind of, like, whether it's Marvel or Star Trek or Star Wars. And when you just have 4 kids lost in space, there's nothing more accessible than that. It's just a basic premise, and then they can take it from there. And so I'm optimistic more than ever, actually. I'm excited.
As long as we get a Wookiee doing a truffle shuffle, you'll be happy.
Gunji's coming back. Gunji's coming back into animation, so that's good too.
The truffle shuffle, great drop there, Mike. Jedi Mike,
if I hang out with Jason and Rob, that's the only way my brain can pull out stuff like that.
You've kind of already given us a little hint of where you are looking forward, but go ahead. You want to expand on that at all? Or are you good?
You talking about me for the future?
Yeah.
I work with people out here like that are in the Lucasfilm and the ILM VR thing that gets session excited. And I work with people at Disneyland that work on rides and stuff. And they're part of those, like they're real people on the ground. And I will fight for those real people, to have good living wages and stuff. But at the same time, they're doing some awesome stuff. And there's a lot of potential in Batuu within the books, right? Before the structure of Batuu and the rides and stuff there, they're doing stuff in the books and they're doing stuff in the comics. And there is potential if you want it to be. People, there's potential in you if you want it to be. Just keep coming back and let Star Wars Santa ask questions with you about Star Wars and life. And you'll find out what you want, I think, if you keep coming back.
Thank you so much. Obsession. I kind of know where you are because you and I are brothers in this. Go ahead. Where are you on looking forward in Star Wars?
Oh, the future's bright. I mean, just the stuff we have on deck alone, for starters, we have, the animation, the Bad Batch stuff. They just introduced Tales of the Jedi. We don't know that we're not going to get more. I'm still really want the Shak Ti story. I think they need to button that up in a nice Tales of the Jedi animation of how she died. I think that would be another good one.
Leia quitting being a Jedi. There's so many interesting.
I can't say my new T-shirt. We'll have to say it offline, but it involves Mace Windu, that bus driver. So I'm really bright on it. I think Bad Batch is a really good way to bring in Order 66. I think I'm worried about some stuff, but I think all roads lead to the sequels, and I know that's not a narrative that's positive, but just based on what I'm seeing in what we are getting content wise, I see that as holding more true than ever. So for me, I feel like it's bright because Dave Filoni's reign is only just begun, and he is steering the ship back into fruitful waters, let's say.
Yeah,
there's four dimensions of exponential growth because we haven't even begun to talk about Yoda and the High Republic. I mean, things are going in every direction in time and space in the Star Wars continuity, and Dave wasn't promoted when the cool stuff was happening with those creative artists within the book group and the High Republic and stuff. So yeah, there's stuff within the High Republic stuff that we can be nitpicky about, but I'll go back again. We were not there nitpicking about what the fool was putting in the Lord of the Rings when he wrote it. Like, oh my God, we're so privileged to be in this space right now. Let's enjoy this moment with each other. I've been having a great time today with you guys talking about this stuff.
And to finish out, for me, the most exciting thing, and I think this is something that this IP holds, although Marvel has some great video games, I think this is something that makes Star Wars different than House of the Dragon, than Lord of the Rings, than all of these other IPs, Cobra Kai and all these other shows that are out in the metaverse.
Big. She's so hot. I agree.
Star Wars has.
I'll put it in the chat. I'll put my Bix joke in the chat.
Sorry, dude. I didn't do it.
No, you're fine. Star Wars has these video games that are now becoming iconic, right? You have Jedi. You have Jedi Survivor coming out, and that has such hype behind it. We don't know where we're going from there, right? So they've done us so much justice in covering so many bases, from animation to live action. They're staying away from the movies. I agree with that. You've got to wait it out. They put so much money in Disney Plus. You have to utilize this platform for what you built it for, and then bring some movies to it once you've built this amazing platform. So it's bright, man. It's bright.
Yeah, I agree with you. I have my frustrations with Lucasfilm as a whole. Like Jedi Mike would say, look, they're learning. I can see the learning curve. I can see them adapting and changing with some of the mistakes they've made.
We don't see. The mouse is taking over the HR department. I talk about this stuff on the Discord all the time if you really want to get geeky about it. But there's shifts that are happening in the community too that we have to be empathetic about. Maybe we can be empathetic.
I'm very optimistic on the future. I'm disappointed in certain aspects. I was disappointed with some parts of Rise of Skywalker because I have my own expectations as well. I'm a little disappointed with Tales of the Jedi because of it not following the Ahsoka story the way I wanted it to. There are things that, to me, are frustrating, and even with Dave Filoni, his involvement, his maturation.
I hear obsessions, disappointment in the marketing for Andor. Like you love something and then you wonder about but usually we didn't have to worry about the HR department or the PR department in the past.
Well,
so.
I've had to come to terms with stories being told differently in different mediums are going to reflect details differently. And that's been a frustration because if you read, let's say you read a novel and you love it and you see it coming to animation or live action and you look forward to seeing these things happen. Go back to Harry Potter or Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is actually one of the novels that is so much better than the movie. And this happens all the time. Novels are consistently better than movies.
Talking about reading, Michael Crichton. There you go.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. But the movie caught fire, and it caught the imagination of children now for decades.
Now you really got me started because how much better would this year have been if just 20% more people had read the Andromeda Strain? Maybe we wouldn't have bitched and moaned about shit in the last. Anyway, now you're really getting me started because the Andromeda Strain could open up people's perspective and talking about stuff. We need to read more. Reading, people. Reading.
Well, the frustration then is when you watch something portrayed in a different medium and parts that you miss from the reading to seeing.
Santa, I love Anne Rice. You have no idea. Like Anne Rice is my other star. It's my book thing, and they have an interview with the Vampire TV show. Anybody who saw that Ahsoka thing is complaining today. You're watching an interview with the vampire and you read the book. Oh my! You guys got it made in the shade, man. Well, I just saw my two favorite vampires like fighting about something and getting thrown into space and stuff. I was like, "What is this?" I was really mad.
I understand Santa's frustration with probably the last episode of Tales. Yeah. For me, I understand the frustration, but at the same time, I know that it's hard to take these, especially Star Wars, right? And this is such a tough thing because they canceled the EU and they canceled all of the the content that was written in the comic books and such. But I feel like Dave and the team have are trying to do the best job possible without literally remaking a book, right? And there's a lot more that goes into it than we're aware of. But even still, I wasn't particularly happy with not seeing certain scenes and missed opportunity maybe, but at the same time, he's got to save something for his show, right?
Yeah, look, I think that's fair. It's just about me resetting my expectations. And you're right. You're right. And I've known this, and I brought up the example of other novels that have been made into movies and how they were disappointing as well. It's something that I've known, but now applies to Star Wars in a way that is different than my expectations were set when Disney bought Lucasfilm and they said we're going to have one continuity, and now there's variance in the continuity. And I just
how has your perspective changed as a creator now that you make art and you see art change over time? Does that add to your perspective?
No, let me tell you, I published a video of Santa Claus on Nika, the smallest elf. And that's a story that I tell when I do home visits with kids. And I'm telling them about the North Pole. Every time I tell that story, there's a slight element of it that's different than the last time I told that story. It's just because creatively, I feel a little different. I'm in a different place. I'm reading the room differently, and I'm telling the story to adapt to the situation.
So you're like the elf said climb, and you were like, that's symbolic for what's coming in the next Santa story. No? Okay.
Well, look, and that's a large part of this. Lucasfilm had a direction. Lucasfilm had a direction under the previous leadership, right? Kathleen and Pablo, and they Pablo. Yeah, I'm right, Pablo. Right? Okay, I get those.
Pablo was just like a brand manager for a long time.
Yeah, it's all the man behind. It's just the fictional man behind the curtain that we're bringing up. It's a straw man.
A lot of heat. I like giving him a lot of heat. He's earned it. So,
he's an asshole.
Yeah,
he completely lied. He said I did a story about Rogue One and how it was being refilmed about 40%. He called me a liar. Said all of this stuff, then delete all the tweets. And this week, Gilroy's like, "Yeah, I went in there and changed about half of it."
Yeah.
So
I mean, look, there's a different group of people, and Dave's run has been so short, and what he's been able to do.
No, it's not. It's the same people. Nothing's changed.
Well, leadership. I mean,
it's the same leadership.
I mean, Dave has a different role there than he did when he was animating Rebels.
Is what I'm saying. Like, there's power in his position. He's not just lead animator or lead storyteller. You're a VP of production.
Yeah,
you're at the table. You know, you may not be.
Just really quickly. I hear this come up a lot. Momita Sengupta is the actual leadership change that's happened, and nobody even knows who that is. She was a Netflix person who came over from Stranger Things, and
we remember when that story was published a while ago.
But it's all like green lighting and support stuff because they all believe in the auteur theory. They all wanted to bring in a director writer, which has kind of burned them really hard over and with the franchise thing. Yeah, but that's what they all believe. So they're all just facilitating these individuals who either like Rian Johnson. Divorce everything about Rian Johnson from it. The guy came in, wrote, directed his thing, did the job stellar, perfect. It was a 10 out of 10. eBay or fast shipping would buy from again. That was their take on that one. Everybody else, it's been okay, and I want to bring over people from Bad Robot, and it's been a bunch of friction and stuff. But the early part of it with it was a lot of Bad Robot kind of trying to integrate stuff in there, and it didn't work. In my opinion, it didn't work. They might disagree, but I saw it didn't work. So sorry, I don't have to come off this rude. I just meant to say the Dave Filoni's power thing. The quote promotion was more of an acknowledgement of what he really was for years, as opposed to getting
title is still a big thing in the hierarchy of whose desk things land on and who you report to. Everybody's got a boss.
Yeah, of course.
Even the shareholders have bought. Everybody's got a boss. Yeah. So it's things are looking up.
I agree.
The story.
I'm excited about the future of Star Wars under Disney. I'm very happy with where it has been and where it's going. I agree with what most of you have said. All of you, most of what all of you have said, and I'm really looking forward to.
Where's Imagic Maker? Where did he go?
Oh, he's having technical issues. He sent me a message. His phone is not cooperating. Okay. So I want to promote just a little bit. We have this Hot Toys.
Can I have it?
A Sideshow collectible, Boba Fett and Throne. And I've already pre-ordered the Fennec Shand that goes with the set.
Can I have it?
We'll be giving this away to one of our Elite Squad members.
Do I win it, Santa?
How do you win it? You become an Elite Squad member. So you could do that on Patreon, or you could do that in YouTube. It's $10 a month, and you have to be an Elite Squad for 6 months cumulatively by the time we do the giveaway. That giveaway is going to be after the Fennec Shand figure arrives. So you still got several months to get onto the list and to get eligible to win this prize. Now, along the way, we give away monthly prizes as well. We do giveaways of gift cards. Coming up in December, we're going to have a huge giveaway with Vintage Collection and Black Series figures. So if you would like to Santa bribing for members, it's true. It's true. Obsession does it too.
I do it like crazy. Don't like.
I've been doing giveaways since the beginning of the channel, so we're going to continue that. But this has been on order. This is here. It's an amazing figure. It's still in the packaging. This is going to be sent to the winner unopened. So you'll get a first view of this from Sideshow Collectibles right here. The Hot Toys, Boba Fett and Throne from the end of season 2 of The Mandalorian. So there you go.
Maybe you'll win, and it'll be underneath the Christmas tree, and your kid will look at it for 2 minutes and then ignore it. Could be you.
Could be you. And Obsession, you're doing a giveaway as well.
Yep. Yeah, we're still trucking along. We're trying to give away that PlayStation back there. When we hit 1,000 subscribers, we are going to release the rules of and how to get your entry, and then we're going to do the thing.
Wonderful. And Pablo, I'm really good friends with somebody who's a personal friend of Pablo's, and yeah, he's a bit of a tool.
He's an asshole.
Right? He is. Absolutely.
He's the guy who plays D&D and is the dungeon master, and then he carries that around with him. But he's an asshole.
And this whole thing about
Theory's an asshole for covering my stories and not citing me because he's a gatekeeping little bitch as well.
Well, this story about feelings aren't for sharing. This is a bit of a spin on a thing he said. He was trolls troll, and he is an asshole, and he was trolling and said something tongue in cheek, purposely. But
also, if you cry out Luke Skywalker on the internet, learn how to laugh at yourself. You're an asshole too. I mean, give me a fucking break. I mean, come on. You're crying about a guy with the green laser sword. I get it, buddy. I'm right there with you. I had a little bit of tears too, but you know, I went, fucking nerd. I mean, that's what you do.
I mean, look, yeah. I got a whole video that I haven't dropped that I've been dying to drop about crying at Star Wars and content, but I just haven't had the heart to drop it.
Well, look, I get that it had major parts in our childhood. For me, growing up, and I went through hardships in my family, or my as a kid. I went through some terrible things. Many of us have. People have dealt with terrible things. Theory has, as well as everybody else, and that it connects to you in a way that creates emotions. Just embrace it. Be who you are, and accept it. Pablo being a jerk and being a troll, yeah, absolutely. But it was also put out of context and acted like he was insulting a guy that he wasn't insulting. So, and that was blown out of proportion as well. So, whatever.
Outrage. It's not real.
Whatever. Hey, thanks for hanging out with me today to talk about Star Wars. The last 10 years of Disney Lucasfilm, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys.
We've only touched a little bit of it because your survey was wonderful, but like Jason and I were talking about the music in Andor, right? And the things that give you chills, right? Star Wars obsession. Yeah. So you could add to your video obsession just picking music and stuff. Like there's a lot of wonderful things happening. There's a lot of good stuff to talk about. And there's a lot of stuff that you can rage at too. If you want to rage, we can rage.
Yeah, that's true. Jason, you're doing a show today?
I am.
Very good.
1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Okay. Well,
and we
adjust for your time zone.
Jason, because honestly, like I come on here, a little bit. Yeah, a little avatar. You just never know what's going to happen. No, we got to keep journalism and critical thinking and optimistic discussion going forward, Santa. So seriously,
thank you.
You think this is just a YouTube game? I think you're doing something bigger here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's the kind of thing that keeps me going when I feel like I'm not making a difference. I appreciate it. It really does.
Yeah, Santa's the best. You always make a difference, dummy.
It really means a lot.
Yeah, you're being a dummy if you think you don't make a difference, Santa. Hey, I'm gonna get abusive in my love for you. You dummy.
If you can't fight for artists' rights and withhold elves' rights at the same time, what can you do? You're not living.
Right?
Oh, you just lost him. You just lost him because he does not believe in elves' rights at all.
Power to the people, except for elves. They are not.
Except for elves. Obsession, thank you for hanging out with us again today. Jedi Mike, always great. And Jason, thank you, my friend. Meg, appreciate you being in. Love you, my friend. Absolutely adore Meg.
And I love Imagic Maker since nobody else apparently does.
Look, and Imagic Maker and I have been friends. And I was going to say, we actually sat down at a table and broke bread together. His family, my family. down in Orlando, and you can dislike things that other people like and still be friends.
The
It's true.
lasagna hits the same. You're saying the lasagna.
It's all good. It's all good. We can be friends and disagree, and that's fine. And that's what I love about. I've revealed my political, religious beliefs, and I know that many of you do not hold the same values I do, or the same beliefs that I do.
Heck
and
no,
that's fine.
I still love you.
That's right. Jason and Rob loves to pick on me. Rob thinks I'm a fascist. That's fine.
No, Rob loves. Rob doesn't.
I don't think he
I
said
just-
you're a fascist.
No,
he said you're a fascist.
no, he never said that. He never said. I'm exaggerating just to kind of poke at Rob. Just having fun.
You're a lovely person for letting him use you to express the truth. That's awesome.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. So you guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. I hope all of you have a wonderful evening, and I'm just going to close it out here. No trail. I haven't updated the members list and all of that, so we're just going to end the stream here. If you guys want to hang out a little bit after the stream, feel free to do so. Or if you need to get on out of here,
Staples
go on and
delivery.
get on out. Yes, UPS just dropped off some stuff, so you guys have
everybody.
a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out, and until next time, my friends. Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas! And may the force be with you always.